Welcome to Running Hot, Action Network's motorsports betting podcast. I'm your host, Nick Giffen, predictive analyst here at Action Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, Stephen Young of RotoGrinders, better known as Stevie TPFL. And this week, we're talking bets for the Grant Park 220 at the Chicago Street Course here on Running Hot. Last week, Ross Chastain won his first race of the 2023 season, his third career win. And he won at Nashville, finishing ahead of the two Joe Gibbs Racing teammates of Martin Truex Jr. and Denny Hamlin. That win for Chastain did snap a 42-race winless streak for him, and it put him in a tie for second place in the regular season points standing. So, Stevie, let's react to that race. Ross Chastain, some bold moves there at the end, especially getting around some lapped cars. Pass for the lead. What did you think of the race at Nashville?
I think it's the best flat track race we've had this year by far. I think it was a great race. I know there was a lot of people hating on the race, but I mean, we had passing throughout the field on cars that were better, and then we had a ton of passing for the lead and competing for the lead. And I know people like cautions and wrecks and restarts and all that fun stuff. But at the end of the day, 4 cautions for 24 laps didn't bother me at all. We had 20 plus lead changes. And I know some of that's during pit flag or green flags, but I mean, the 3 best cars were Chastain, Truex, and Hamlin. And I would put Hamlin as a distant third car. It was by far Truex and Chastain. You could probably put Tyler Reddick up there before he had some issues. But yeah, I mean, the cars that were fast ran really well. We had passing for the lead. We had passing throughout the field. Tire fall off wasn't a thing, which I don't love. I love when, I want guys to have to manage their tires a little bit. And if I put on 50-lap newer tires, I want to be able to run past these guys. But if I had one downfall, I would say it was that. But overall, I thought the race was great. I really enjoyed it. I still think, we continue to talk about Ford, but they're struggling big time. They did not have a lot of speed again. So we'll continue to talk about that. We have a couple oddball races here in a row. But yeah, overall, I think that the race was great and good for Chastain. He is someone that gets a lot of crap and he is super talented, and I want to see him continue to do well.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there. It was definitely an interesting race. There wasn't a ton of tire fall off, like you said, but there was some. There was enough where if you could manage it, or if you were, to stay out a couple laps late or come in a couple laps early, you could make up some track position. You could make some passes just by managing your tires, but it wasn't a ton, like you said. They went from the mid 30s in seconds to about the mid 31s. So that 1 second fall off isn't as much as we see at some other tracks where it's a second and a half or 2 seconds within a handful of laps even. So not a ton. And like you said, good for Ross Chastain, super talented driver, just hasn't always been able to harness that into wins. And now he gets his first oval win that isn't a super speedway win, even though it is Nashville Super Speedway. First non-drafting oval win, if you want to call it that. So yeah, thought it was a very good race. And there were definitely some passes for the lead. I think there were 6 passes outside of restarts on track for the lead. So that's pretty solid as well. But that is a look back at Nashville. Now it is time to look forward to this weekend's race on the streets of Chicago. Yeah, we're going street racing. Chicago, the street course is a 2.2 mile, 12-turn track. There are going to be a few newly repaved sections. There are going to be a lot of tight corners, a lot of 90-degree turns. Drivers, I've heard them say that passing is going to be hard, and we know a lot of them have done some time on the simulators trying to test out this track. But we're not really going to know how things will play out until we see the cars on track. So, Stevie, I guess what kind of racing could we expect? Do we even know what to expect?
No, I mean, we should start by saying that this is one of the toughest weeks to come in and try to predict what's going to happen with the race, because we've never seen this in NASCAR before. I think you can count on one hand drivers in the field that actually have experience racing on a street course. And I think a couple of those don't even have any experience racing in a cup car outside of maybe a couple races. So what to expect? Yeah. I think that it's going to be very interesting. I want to note that street course racing is going to be a little bit different than like Sonoma and Coda. If someone spins, we see a part of the track get a caution. If you spin on the street race, they're gonna have to throw like full field yellows. So I think that's gonna change. I think we're gonna see a little bit more restarts. Strategy I think is gonna be a huge thing because track position is going to be so important this week. So trying to pinpoint what we're gonna do, you and I are gonna do, and anybody else that is trying to bet or play fantasy is try to pinpoint who's just going to be fast in qualifying, because we really think that track position is going to be the most important stat, I think. So that's going to be fun because again, we have nothing to really go off of outside of like road course racing. And while road course racing will help, it's not street racing. And I know you have a lot more interest in like IndyCar. I watch a lot of F1. This is way different. And I feel like we need to continue to say this is not the same as going to Sonoma, like where we were just at a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely not the same as going to Sonoma. Like you said, if car hits the wall, they're crunching the wall, right? And so they're probably going to end up stopping on track, and it's going to have to be a full course yellow. We only had 2 full course yellows at Sonoma. So, I think we're going to have a few more here, maybe. But who knows? I mean, it could be a procession. I think this race has a wide range of outcomes. It could be anything from a procession where it's really hard to pass and drivers keep it clean and they don't end up hitting the walls, to absolute total chaos. Maybe it will be easy to pass in some sections. I was kind of looking at the track, and there's definitely some parts where there's multiple lanes, traffic, like actual traffic lanes, because they're racing on the streets. You can see both directions. The traffic lanes can fit 4, 5, 6 cars wide. So there could be passing. There may not be passing. There could be chaos. There may not be chaos. We just don't know. So we kind of have to plan for that. And like you said, track position will be a key factor. It always is at road courses. I think that's the one thing we can definitely take away from any kind of similarity is track position is always key at these road courses. So that's one thing. Like you said, we're going to try to figure out who's going to be fast in qualifying, and that should help. But I could see a wide range of outcomes. I could see, like I said, anything from a processional almost race, hard to pass, to mass chaos like we've seen at the Indy road course a couple times. So just a lot of ways to go about this. So you mentioned, handicapping, qualifying maybe. How are we handicapping qualifying, or just driver performance in general? Are we looking at specific road courses, all of them, anything else? What are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to kind of lump all of the road courses together and use that, and then look at maybe just this season and look at, raw speed from those races, and try to just kind of who's been fast on road courses, and, kind of narrow it down from that, who's qualified well on road courses kind of thing. Because, we'll have that different kind of qualifying where they'll have like time instead of like going out and making a lap by themselves. So who's been good in qualifying on road courses, I think, is something you can kind of look at, because at the end of the day, track position is going to be important, whether it's chaos, whether you can't pass, whatever it may be. Track position, like you said, is going to be so important. And you look at, you were talking about looking at like the track and not seeing any cars on track. I see like potentially setting people up in turn 12, turn 1, turn 2, but the rest of the course looks so tight. I think 8, 9, and 10, you're just going to kind of follow the car that's going in front of you there, because it just seems so tight. There doesn't seem, and I know they have a lot of grandstands there and they're expecting some action there, but you look at it and you look at iRacing like broadcasts and stuff, like there's just I just don't see like a second lane being able to make passes there. So I mean, it's super interesting. But overall, I just want to know who's been fast on road courses, and that's the data I'm using going into the weekend. I think there's some value using that data, but at the end of the day, practice is going to be helpful. It's not the end all, because I mean, it's still only a 50-minute practice session, and that's not a ton of time, but we'll have a good idea after practice of who's at least fast. So, kind of circling back after practice is going to be important this week.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things, so just going back to Nashville, because this is going to tie into this weekend's race, you mentioned those Fords and how they struggled. One thing I feel like I've really nailed all year is the Fords. I feel like I know when they're going to be good. I feel like I know when they're going to be bad. And a lot of it is based around the change to their nose that they had from 2022 to 2023. I think this will be a better track for Ford among the road courses. Sonoma, the Fords were out to lunch other than McDowell and Busher. It was rough sledding for all the Fords. At Nashville, I thought it was going to be better for the Fords as it went into nighttime conditions. We saw that happen. Kevin Harvick came up to like fourth place and was challenging for third place until he had his issues on pit road. And some of the other Fords got better as well. Keselowski moved up into the top 11, top 12 when he was hanging back in the mid-teens or close to the 20s all race. So this weekend for the Fords, I think it's going to be a better road course for them. Not as much tire wear, I don't think, especially with some newly repaved sections. Also, some more longer straightaways should help them. And then 90-degree turns instead of what we had at Sonoma, with a lot of twisting, turning, uphill, downhill, and just a high tire wear track at Sonoma in general. So putting a single lap together in qualifying, I think, is very possible for the Fords this weekend. So I look for a bounce back from them, at least on road courses. And we saw, at Circuit of the Americas, the Fords were okay. We talked about this when we were evaluating Sonoma. There was Cindric in the top 10, McDowell just outside the top 10, and things like that. So there were some good Fords at Circuit of the Americas. I think we're going to see a Ford rebound at the road courses here. But that is going to do it for our Chicago preview. As always, we're going to take you for a lap around the track. We're not going to do all 12 turns, but we will do 4 turns each. 1 pick from Stevie and 1 pick from myself per turn before we drive in the victory lane. So, Stevie, we're about to take the green flag for our first street course race. It's time to dive into turn 1. All right, Stevie, lead us in to turn 1.
Yeah, here we go, right?
Yep.
I'm going to go Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin top 10 plus 135. After struggling big time at Coda, we saw Hamlin take huge strides at Sonoma. Different kind of street race, road course. I understand it, but after Toyota was just out to lunch last year on road courses, they have a lot of speed this year, and I think Tyler Reddick has really helped that. He understands what the car needs after running so well with Chevys last year. These cars in general are so similar that you can kind of bring a Chevy setup over to a Toyota and it's still going to run pretty similar. So, after last year, you wouldn't even think about a Toyota, but if Hamlin can put down a good qualifying lap, which he did at Sonoma, track position, like we've talked about so much, should be so important that I think he has the potential to qualify inside the top 10. And Denny spends a ton of time on the simulator. So I think he's going to put the work in this week, and kind of like a gut thing. But I mean, all of our bets this week are, semi gut, semi stats. And I like Denny at plus 135, because if he does qualify inside the top 10, this is going to move. I already saw it plus 110 this morning. So jumping on this one early.
Yeah, semi gut, semi stat. I love the way you put that, because that is very true. And, those Toyotas, they definitely bounced back for Sonoma. Martin Truex Jr., of course, winning. Denny Hamlin had a strong race, leading a lot of the early race. So you're right. If he can qualify up front, top 10 plus 135 is very solid value. For my gut and stat blend in turn 1, I'm going to go with Austin Cindric, top 5 at plus 425. We want to talk qualifying. Austin Cindric qualified 3rd at Circuit of the Americas. And I do think the gut thing that Ford is going to bounce back here. It's going to be a little bit better for them. Plus Austin Cindric, he's just a natural road course racer. He's got some time in open wheel cars. He's got some time in sports cars, obviously in the next gen car, Xfinity cars, all sorts of things. And road course racing is what he is best at. And he does have 2 top 5s at road courses in the 8 road course races in the next gen car. So 2 for 8, that's a 25% rate. That would be plus 300 as fair value if that were his long-term average for finishing in the top 5. He also finished 6th earlier this year at Circuit of the Americas. I do think, like I said, whatever happened at Sonoma, at least for the Fords, maybe, I wouldn't necessarily say a fluke, but it was a very physics-based thing. And I think that physics changes a lot here at the Chicago street course. So Austin Cindric, top 5, plus 425 is my turn 1 pick.
Yeah, you got to remember this guy, very, very young in his career, not even in his career, but I mean, 12, 13, 14 years old. He was at the Skip Barber Racing School, spending time learning road courses and running open wheel stuff, running Porsches, stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm very high on Cindric. I'm right there with you. I am waiting for practice for Cindric more of just because this is one of those scenarios where hopefully they leave some lines up. We can see how he, if his speed is there. I trust the talent. I just want to make sure the overall speed is there. And I only need to see a lap or two, and I'll know if they were just so bad at Sonoma, I'm just a little worried. But I hear you. I think I agree with you as far as Ford being better at this road course or street course. I'm going to call it road course, but it'd be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think waiting for practice isn't necessarily a bad idea, but just looking around the market on Cindric, you can get his top 5 pretty low. So 425, I think is some nice stretch value there. If you compare around, I see it as low as plus 280 out there. So just kind of line shopping, plus 425 seems like a pretty solid number. All right, so that is turn 1. And now we're going to make the right-hander into turn 2. All right, Stevie, let's take that right-hand turn into turn 2.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a guy here that actually has a little bit of experience on this type of circuit, we'll call it. I keep calling it road courses. Let's just go full on open wheel. We'll call it a circuit. Give me AJ Allmendinger, top Chevy at plus 550. If we look at the stats from this year, Allmendinger and Kyle Busch have been the best 2 Chevys as far as raw speed. Allmendinger has been the fastest overall speed car on road courses this year. You can look at last year. He's top 5 last year in speed as well. He was awful at Sonoma last year. They were really bad at Road America. He spent a lot of time with the team at Indy and Watkins Glen and the Roval, and they made all the right adjustments. I think that's kind of when they were like, hey, AJ, we want you to go full time next year. And we saw a lot more time with AJ in the car, and he's just gotten better and better since then. So looking at just Chevy in general, I always am a fan of Kyle Busch, but I think this is going to benefit a guy like AJ a little bit more. You always worry about like a guy like Chase Elliott, who's really good on road courses, and William Byron, who's put in a ton of time. But after that, Suarez and Chastain, they don't have a ton of, experience on this type of track. So with so many question marks on the new track, I'm going with a talented road course racer here and going AJ at plus 550 for top Chevy.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. This is, at least for me, it's another gut versus data thing. I think our gut always says these types of races will go to the road course racer, the street course racer, AJ Allmendinger. But there's also a part of me that questions like, well, the fact that nobody's been here, does it level the playing field or does it favor the specific road course ringer? So it's always a question for me. But it's always hard to go against AJ Allmendinger at any road course. Now, one guy you did mention there was Daniel Suarez. He is my turn 2 pick, and I'm going to take him in a group with the 3-team Penske cars of Austin Cindric, Joey Logano, and Ryan Blaney. And this play for me is simply based off the fact that the Penskes are going to be correlated, right? Just like we saw at Sonoma, the Penskes were correlated. Now, Joey Logano finished 3rd. That was very much a strategy 3rd place finish. He was more like a 10th place car. But if those Penskes are going to be correlated again, and if they struggle, Daniel Suarez is basically a shoo-in in this group. Now, of course, I do think the Fords will be better. But that said, even if the Fords are better, Suarez has just been better than Logano and Blaney at road courses in the next-gen car overall. And he's been right there neck and neck with Cindric. So I think this line is too long, regardless of correlated Penske's good, bad, whatever it is. If we just evaluate each individual driver, I still think plus 330 is too long here for Daniel Suarez. Remember, he dominated Circuit of the Americas last year. He was very strong at Circuit of the Americas this year. Won at Sonoma last year. So this guy has had some very good road course finishes, or at least road course performances if the finishes hadn't been there based off of things like bad luck, like at Circuit of the Americas last year with the whole stage caution thing, which we're not going to have this year. He decided to stay out and win stage 1, got put back into the field for stage 2 and got wrecked. That's not going to happen in this case. If we don't get, those yellows, he'll just stay towards the front of the field if that's where he qualifies and runs. So I like this Daniel Suarez plus 330 against Team Penske.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at just raw speed with the new car on road courses, he's the best in raw speed out of those 4 drivers. Logano's 20th in my rankings as far as raw speed on road courses. So he has really struggled on road courses. The only thing that I will say about Logano that's completely off base on this group, if Logano goes out and he's terrible in qualifying and you get him, starting in the 20s and you see a really good number on top 10, Paul Wolf is a strategy monster, man.
Mm-hmm.
They were not as fast as they finished in Sonoma. So just wanted to throw that little nugget out there that you can always trust Paul Wolf on strategy if you do get some good numbers on him.
Absolutely. All the way back to when he was working with Brad Keselowski there at Team Penske. That was one of the things we could always do was look at Paul Wolf and strategy. All right. That is turn 2 for us. Now we're going to head down that long back stretch, and turn 3 is a little bit of a kink in the road there. So that's where we're headed right now. All right, Stevie, take us through turn 3.
Yeah, I mean, turn 3 is going to be fast. So why not go to a guy that's been extremely fast in the road courses, right? We're getting Tyler Reddick over Chase Elliott at even money, straight up. There's no reason that this should be a straight up bet if we look at just finishes and results and speed. I get like how good Chase Elliott is on road courses. I'm not sitting here dishing him. I think that he has just as much chance to win this race as 5 of the top 6 guys here. So when I'm looking at this head to head, Reddick ranks first in speed. Elliott ranks second. My model has Reddick as the favorite head to head. So we're getting Reddick as the underdog is really nice because Elliott's minus 125. Reddick has 3 wins and 8 races on road courses. Elliott has 0. I think it's really close. I mean, again, I think these are 2 of the best 3 guys on road courses with the new car, 2 of the best 3 guys on road courses in general here. Just getting Reddick at even money just really stood out to me.
Yep, I can't argue that at all. Reddick in the next gen car has performed better than Chase Elliott in an 8 race sample size. And if so, we're just going to use that, then got to take Reddick, got to take him at plus money, even if it's just even money. That's if he's favored, you're getting at 50% implied odds. And if we have him over 50%, absolutely have to take that. For my turn 3 pick, I am going to go back to the Ford camp, and I'm going to take Chris Buescher to finish inside the top 10 at minus 112. If we want to talk next gen 8 race sample size on road courses, Chris Buescher has 7 top 10 finishes, including each of the last 7 road course races. The guy's pretty darn good at these. Now, a couple of those have been, I would consider a little more on the lucky side where he hasn't had as much speed, but a lot of those have been based off of speed as well. So I'm just going to go with a guy who 7 out of 8 has finished inside the top 10. He's always hanging around the top 10 if his performance isn't quite there. And he always seems to be one that just keeps his nose clean. And even in chaos races, somehow comes away with a top 10 finish at these chaos road course races. And if this one's chaos, I think he's going to be fine. If it's not chaos, he should still be fine as well, based off of everything we've seen from his road course history. So Chris Buescher, top 10 minus 112 is my turn 3 pick.
Yeah, I wrote this up this morning. I'm right here with you. 7 straight, like not even just 7 straight, So when you're just looking at the odds, he should be minus 140, minus 150, minus 160, and we're getting it at minus 112. Love it. I have no bad things to say about this. I'm right there with you. The speed has been there. Even when Fords have struggled, he has been good. No reason not to have interest in Buescher.
Totally agree with you. All right, so that is turn 3. And we got one more turn left before we're going to, complete the lap and drive into victory lane. And that is turn 4. So we're going to dive into turn 4. All right, Stevie, what do you have for us heading into turn 4?
I think turn 4 is going to be a mess in the race. We'll see. I could be wrong. When you look at it on paper, when you watch some iRacing, turn 4 could be a mess. So let's get a little juicy here. I see you're on this as well because I see your pick because I have your sheet in front of me. But give me Michael McDowell, top 5 plus 350. Love Michael McDowell. He's been the 3rd best car on road courses with the new car. He's had one bad race. That was at Coda as far as speed goes, but this dude continues to just produce. He has a ton of experience on racing on road courses and stuff like that, prior to his NASCAR days. So again, you mentioned with AJ. Does it benefit them? Does it not? We won't know. We really won't know until Sunday night, after this race is over. But I'm going to go with the experience, and I'm going to go with the talent. I'm going to go with the speed, and I'm going to take Michael McDowell top 5 plus 350 here.
Yeah, we can't say enough good things about how well Michael McDowell has performed at these road courses. He arguably could have had a car to win at Sonoma. He was really coming on late in that race. So
Pit crew, man.
Yeah, man, pit crew really, really hurts him there. That's one of those things, though, that just kind of, it is what it is, and we have to remember that it's always going to hinder his chances to win, but he still could absolutely get a top 5 finish. For me, though, instead of taking the top 5 finish, I am looking at his group bet at plus 380 in a group with William Byron, Christopher Bell, and Denny Hamlin. Now, full disclosure, I'm not betting this one because I already bet him in this group at plus 330 earlier, but instead of Hamlin, it was Chris Buescher. But Byron and Bell were still the same thing. But I do like plus 380 if you just replace Buescher with Hamlin. I think that's pretty fair as well. It just comes down to McDowell has performed as well as these guys, if not better than some of these guys on road courses. We look at William Byron. He's been neck and neck with William Byron on speed over the 8-race sample size. Now, I know William Byron has had some standout road course races, but he's also had some clunkers. Similar with Christopher Bell, I think it's a little unfair to assess Bell from last year with the Toyota struggles, but even this year, McDowell has been faster than Christopher Bell at these road courses. And of course, Denny Hamlin was awesome at Sonoma, but not quite as good at Circuit of the Americas. So overall, I think this group is pretty neck and neck. I could see any of them winning, just depends on who hits it here. So we're getting McDowell out of nice plus 380 price. I like that too much for a guy who's, contending for top 5s almost every week that we go to these road course races.
Yeah, I mean, we're on McDowell. Let's do it. I think the biggest threat in this group is probably Hamlin. I love the matchup against Bell. If you can find McDowell against Bell in a head-to-head, love that.
So if you think the biggest threat in this group is Hamlin, he's 4-1 in this group. You think we should take that as well?
Yeah, I mean, you could, sure, because if you take both of them and either one of them hit, you're still up, 1.8 units if it's McDowell, 2 units if it's Hamlin. So
yep.
I do think Hamlin, again, it's more of qualifying, right? I do think like Hamlin has the upside to qualify really high. Putting down one lap is better than, running a whole race and maintaining it the whole race. But if Toyota has a little bit of speed back in their road courses, Hamlin has been someone that has always been really good at qualifying on these types of tracks.
And one other thing I'll say is, there's a lot of uncertainty in this race, and uncertainty tends to, it makes long shots a little bit better. So why not play the 2 longest shots in this group if you are going to play, right? So, just with increased uncertainty, increased variance, it tends to give more tail outcomes as well. So just some thoughts there on that group. I am taking Michael McDowell plus 380 in that group, or I think, it's a good bet there. I'm not actually taking it because I've already taken him in a similar group and I don't want to get too overexposed McDowell. But if I were to take him more, I would definitely take him in this group. So let's complete the rest of the lap here. We got through 4 turns. We're going to go through 5. We're going to go through 6, that 7, that 8, 9, 10 complex. Like you said, that's going to be pretty tight. 11 and turn 12. And then we take the checkered flag. Got to go to victory lane. So, Stevie, who are we taking with our victory lane pick?
Yeah, hard right turn out of 12. Looking at that checkered, and me and you, we're on the same page when it comes to a long shot here. And we're going to go Daniel Suarez 25-1. This is a guy that has had race winning speed in 4 of the 8 road course races. He's won 1 of them. He's had race winning speed in 4 of them. He is a guy that ranks inside the top 10 in overall speed on road courses. He was awful at Sonoma because they just whiffed. So
he over revved his engine on lap 1.
Yeah,
and
never recovered.
He downshifted when he meant to upshift because he had ran the Xfinity race the day before, and with that H shifter, he's going one way, but on the sequential, you need to go the other way, and he just messed it up and over revved the engine. So that almost didn't even count as a race for him because he screwed up his engine on lap 1.
I think he was just so excited. I mean, you come back to a race that you won previous, and it was your first Cup win, and you're excited. He had a ton of speed in practice, and just so we're on it. getting Suarez at 25-1 seems like really nice value here. Looking at overall speed and everything when it comes to road courses. Again, he's a guy that grew up racing karts and spending a lot of time in Mexico racing on road course type racetracks. So can he benefit? Who knows? We don't know. We're not sitting here and saying we know. We just know that going in, we're looking at road course speed, and he's had plenty, and he shouldn't be 25-1.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. My model has him around 5.2% to win, something like that. So 25-1 is like 4% ish implied odds. So I've got more than a full percentage point of value here on this one. So definitely got to take it. He was 30-1. He's gotten bet down to 25-1 at some places. So 25-1 still solid value for me, according to my model and according to everything, like you said, that we've seen from him at road courses with that race winning speed in 4 of 8. And, I think he probably would have had a chance to have a very solid Sonoma had he not screwed up his engine on lap 1. But that is going to do it for us. Thank you for listening to the Grant Park 220 episode of Running Hot, Action Network's motorsports betting podcast. We'll be back this time next week to talk about bets for the Quaker State 400 at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Yeah, we're going to be going drafting once again in one of those pack races. On behalf of my co-host, Stephen Young, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you back here next week on Running Hot from Action Network.